Okay, everybody. Okay, Nistuni Doniku, Taryn Williamson, Skapi Bikani, Noom Du Nato Gyogas. Hello, my name is Taryn Williamson, and am grateful to come from the Blackfeet Nation. I am also from the Two Medicine River. Before we begin our presentation, I just want to give a huge thank you to the Little Shell Tribe for allowing me to present to you all today. And I hope you enjoy the video. Here is today's presentation agenda. Um, the beginning of this slide will sound repetitive if you watch the previous presentation, but our information and our services have not changed. That is why I leave them alone. I've added this slide to talk a little bit about myself and to introduce myself, where I come from, and what my role is here at the Butte Native Wellness Center. First, let me give you a little history of myself. There is little baby me. I was about 3 years old in that picture. There's me currently. I was born and raised on the Blackfeet Reservation along the Two Medicine River. It's pronounced as Nato Gyokas in Blackfeet. This is about 12 miles south of Browning, Montana. I am a very proud enrolled member of the Blackfeet tribe. I was raised in a traditional household, meaning that I attend various ceremonies in my life, and I continue to do so. In 2013, I graduated from Browning High School. Then I decided to further my education at the University of Montana. But due to a very personal loss of one of my close friends, I decided to move back home to Browning. I then became a mother in 2015 and decided I will continue my education at the Blackfeet Community College. That is where I graduated as a certified nurse's assistant to better provide for my son. I decided to make a positive change by relocating to Butte, Montana with my cousin's support. This was back in January of 2021. I put my caregiving experience as a CNA to good use by securing a residence aide position at a local nursing home here. However, I desire to do more for my new community. I discovered the Butte Native Wellness Center and decided to explore any job opportunities. I landed a position as the medical receptionist. Over time, I transitioned to the care navigator before ultimately settling in as the cultural specialist as early of 2023. I am coming up on my 3 years of time here serving the community at the Butte Native Wellness Center. In the fall of 2024, I will begin my journey to earn my bachelor's degree and major in history, and my minor will be in ethnobotany. I will be achieving this at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. The reason why I'm doing this is to further my education and my career as a whole. In later slides, I will describe what ethnobotany is and how it is viewed in today's world, along with herbalism and the definition of plants. That's just a little background of me. On this slide, I wanted to add a visual of where I come from. On the left-hand side, you could see a great picture of Glacier National Park, which is my tribe's traditional territory. In this picture, you can see Goose Island sitting in the middle of St. Mary's Lake, surrounded by the mountains. This is where my people would use this area to cross to the west side or to find certain berries, roots, and herbs along the mountain range. I am very grateful that our Glacier National Park was added to the Blackfeet People's Treaty, so that way we can still have access to our traditional berries and roots. We were given permission to forage and to take them out of the the park to take home with us. Every summer, my family, we take a trip up to check on how our ancestors' land is. We scan the area for Savis berries. This has always been my favorite place to go pick berries. Uh, a lot of people call them either Sarvis berries or service berries. I've heard them called multiple names. I grew up calling them Savis berries, but I start to remember. I try to be more mindful that a lot of indigenous people that grew up on reservations, a lot of us, if you guys haven't noticed, but a lot of us speak with broken English, and that might be the reason why we all call them Savisberries instead of what everybody else is calling them, which is Sarvisberries and Serviceberries. We probably just couldn't say that. But I just started thinking about that after I did this the live presentation. I was like, oh, I think it's because of our broken English. Anyways, the second picture is a really good aerial photo of Butte, and you can see the famous Gallus frames, which entails the amazing history of this old miner town. This is where I call home today, and I've really come to love this community and everybody in it. I swear I've met the nicest people here. Urban Indian organizations. So, as a UIO, this is described by the Indian Health Services, which is IHS. They say that UIOs are a nonprofit corporation located in an urban center with a board of directors, 51% of whom are American Indian or Alaskan Native. Its primary purpose is to establish and manage an urban Indian health program and other associated activities, as outlined in Title V of the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act. There are 41 UIOs across the nation. Five of those are in Montana, and I have them listed on the slide. This slide, I dedicated it to my center, which is the Butte Native Wellness Center. First, I would like to say with pride, I have witnessed the Butte Native Wellness Center's remarkable growth for almost 3 years. I've been watching this building getting renovated and new additions, everything. We're just building ourselves up. As the cultural department, we also accomplished so much in the last year. Our team's expansion, along with the growth of various departments, has only strengthened our commitment to better serving the Native community. I am very grateful to be a part of this team and for the unwavering support that each member provides. The Butte Native Wellness Center is a certified outpatient clinic serving the American Indian and Alaskan Native communities of Butte, Montana. The surrounding areas, and the surrounding areas, sorry. Our clinic provides health and wellness services such as mental health, substance abuse recovery, diabetes care, education, and prevention, and other healthcare essentials. We promote a healthy community for all patients with the goal of overall wellness. And at the bottom, I have listed is cultural services. I am going to go into that in my next slide. But there is a picture of all of us staff, not all of us. I think there's a few missing, but we are a growing team, and I'm very proud of every single one of them. Okay, so my job as the cultural specialist, what I do is I promote cultural connectedness in an urban environment like Butte, Montana. One way I achieve this is for our patients that we see at the clinic. We offer a complimentary smudge kit that includes an abalone shell, matches, a small braid of sweetgrass, cedar, sage bundles, and a pinch of ceremonial tobacco. This is all packaged into a cedar box. These boxes are refillable once a month. If a patient has questions regarding tribal resources, I can help with that also. But we also do have a new position that just opened, that was just established to help better assist these patients with ongoing care, such as trying to contact the tribal office for a statement letter or something of that sort. But for the cultural part, what I do is we like to hold different events to the public. This involves storytelling, drumming, and more, including our herbal pharmacy, which I'm going to go into more detail. But besides my own duties linked into the cultural department, I am also a retina imaging acquisition specialist. This What that means is I am able to go in, use a fancy machine that I've been certified and trained to use, and to be able to take pictures of our patient's eyes to look at the back of the eyeball, which is where we can detect different type of diabetic retinopathy, or we can see what what your blood sugar has been like, or your high, if you have high blood pressure. There are different ailments that we could see through the eyes, which is a pretty cool, it was a really cool training. Another one of our events that oh, not events, another one of our programs that we started up here is our Wellbriety and Talking Circles as part of our recovery services. We are officially certified to conduct and facilitate these meetings. I am currently going on to week 4 of my meetings and I love it. I really love what I do. What Wellbriety is I like to describe it as an AA or NA for Native Americans, which is Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, tailored to Native Americans. For myself, I am very open about telling my own story of recovery if it means helping those who are still suffering from addiction. I follow the red road myself because my culture is what keeps me going strong with my sobriety, and I'm very grateful for it. Here is the slide of our herbal pharmacy. What is the herbal pharmacy? So our herbal pharmacy is made up of 13 different herbs that coincide with Native American culture all across the nation, not just in Montana. Because we are a UIO, we are very inclusive with all other tribes and their cultures that come with them, including the different types of plants that they use. So as you can see by the list I have provided on the left-hand side under the 13 different herbs, those are the herbs that we currently provide for anyone. What we do is I've gathered up small canvas tie bags and I give it to the individual, and they can then pack their bag however they like with whatever herbs they want. I provided a brief description of the plant on the sheets you can see below in the picture under those jars. If you see those laminated pieces of paper that are underneath the jars, those are the ones that have the description. I just compiled different ways that tribes connected with these plants and herbs, whether that be spiritually or that being signifying that it signifies something. I just compiled them and I added those to the description. So as these individuals are reading the explanation of each herb, I remind them that they should have positive thoughts while handling these herbs because in our native culture, we believe that energy can be transferred. And that's why we always want to have good energy around us. What I mean by energy being transferred is kind of like if somebody walks in, they have a bad day, then all of a sudden it kind of sets the mood off and it's like a little ripple effect where next thing you know, everyone kind of gets affected by this one person and just kind of has a bad day themselves, not knowing really why, but it's because what we believe is just energy. So we call these medicine bags because traditionally these herbs were all considered good medicine. But for right now, our herbal pharmacy is aromatherapy only. In the herbalism slide, I will go over the reason why we are only doing it um, for aromatherapy only. The cultural department understands and cares about our patients' health and safety. Before any consumption plan is implemented, such as teas, we would like to first educate ourselves by being properly trained. With that being said, I would like to put out a disclaimer about different uses these plants may have regarding consumption. After doing much thorough research, BNWC does not support consumption, so please be advised. I'm going to give you an example of why we are not supporting consumption is because I found out I'm some of these plants can, if being ingested uh, not incorrectly, um, they can either cause kidney damage. They can cause miscarriages. There is a different type of ailments that can follow if you do not do the proper research and if you do not listen to my advisory of these plants. And that is why that's another reason why we only do aromatherapy only. Before explaining why our herbal pharmacy was implemented, I would like to first mention how it all got started. So, a member of the Blackfeet community worked for Zero Suicide, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on mental and behavioral health. He came to our center and we went into our conference room. He laid out the four most famous herbs, which is sage, sweetgrass, cedar, and tobacco. And he had piles of them laid out on that table. And he had each of us come in and talk to us about being mindful with these herbs and being mindful of how you handle them and when you touch them. And I, as a native, as an indigenous woman that grew up around my culture, I understood this completely. And what he had us do was we gathered up these herbs and we put them into he cut out pieces of square fabric and we put those herbs in there and then we tied them up. And he was like, these are your medicine bags. And whenever you're feeling stressed or scared or alone, just know that when you have that medicine bag, that, you know, something's always there with you. You're always there. And it's like a protection thing also. So I'm really glad that he come into our center and he showed us how to do this because we were sitting there and we're like, wow, this is a really great idea. And it really ties perfectly into our clinic that is native centered. So we decided it would be perfect to just open this up for anyone to indulge in because it is very beneficial. I am really grateful for this individual because he is a very positive member of the Blackfeet community and he loves to see Native people strive no matter where they are. He just wants to see people strive and do their best. Okay, now I'm going to go into the question of why was it implemented? Our representation, so the herbal pharmacy is our representation of ancestral plants and medicine that provides an interactive and hands-on experience with sanitary precautions in place. These plants carry, by sanitary precautions, I mean I just wipe down the jars and everything that's been touched after people have handled these, just for infection control. But these plants carry different teachings that have been passed down for generations, originating from indigenous people of this land. Each plant holds a symbolic and sacred meaning, offering a sense of protection and healing. The grounding technique and our herbal pharmacy. medicine bags, they correlate because both practices promote mindfulness and they help reduce negative thoughts and feelings such as anxiety. I personally use my medicine bag for when I am feeling stressed or overwhelmed. It helps me take time to be in the moment and to focus on only the contents of my bag, which is I use sweetgrass, sage, cedar, and tobacco, and I add in lavender. For me, those are very important because they are what I like to call the big four, because that's what they are. They're the four most important herbs to tribes. Who has access? So, our herbal pharmacy is available to anyone willing to make a medicine bag. That means we do not set limitations of who has access to the herbal pharmacy. Unlike our smudge kits, which are reserved for patients only, because we do hold public events and we get recognized by outside organizations, we believe that it is only right for us to offer these herbs to everyone. What I like to say is these are not mine to keep. I can't keep these from people. And along with my knowledge, I believe that my knowledge, I don't believe in keeping my knowledge all for myself. I want it to be shared, and that is why I'm really grateful for these presentations. So where do we obtain these herbs? As of right now, we order our herbs preferably local or native owned businesses. All of our herbs do get shipped across the country. They are usually small, um, small owned businesses. Our number one place though that we've been ordering our herbs is from the Prairie Edge Sioux Trading Post, which is located in Rapid City. They have been our not only our herbal source, but our beading suppliers because we do hold beading events here, beading groups. With that, I am currently in the process of learning the proper ways on how to forage our own traditional plants in the surrounding areas. Not only our not only are we gaining knowledge from our communities of pro gardeners, but also from elders that I have privilege of learning from back home on the Blackfeet Reservation. Plans moving forward with the herbal pharmacy. I've added plant, grow, forage. As our clinic grows as a whole, this gives our cultural department an opportunity to expand as well. Our first-hand experience at gardening last spring and summer was a successful one. I watched the clinic's garden grow I watched it grow a variety of different vegetables thanks to our registered dietitian Amy and her helper Phoebe, who is our outreach specialist. They both do such an amazing job taking care of our garden. Even now, today, they're always up there. I really appreciate that. They both they work together so well on this. The cultural department, we were gifted spirit germplasm sweetgrass starters, which we planted in our community garden bed because we thought due to the grass being out into the open natural elements, it would grow better and it would like adapt more better. The sweetgrass we had a successful season also, and oh, with those starters, we took we took some to the community garden, and then we left one starter at my um, at my supervisor's house, who is who lives in who lives in Butte, and we just wanted to do it for like an experiment in a way. We wanted to see what area will it grow better in. Does it like to be by itself? Does it like to be by other plants? We just wanted to just test it out. So the grass, it did end up growing in the community garden bed. but there were other like weeds or like grass-like weeds that were constantly growing in every single community garden bed. So we decided that it was best to safely remove these plants before they went dormant for the season. Leah and I, my supervisor, we've done so much research on how sweetgrass grows, how it smells when it grows, how it looks when it grows. We've done so much. And what we did was, as we were digging through the community garden bed, we had to identify that this was sweetgrass. And the reason, or the how we identified it was the rhizomes, which are the roots. They grow sideways instead of straight down. And also the stem of the sweetgrass, it will turn like a purplish color. That's how we were identifying that this was sweetgrass. So we took those out and we put them in individual pots and we took them down to my supervisor's house. And that is where we were like, okay, this is where they'll live now. They went dormant. They were kept outside all winter just to be out in its natural elements. And this spring, they actually they start coming back again. And the one that we left all year at my supervisor's house, the one that we did not plant in the garden bed, it is doing so amazing. It is flourishing. That is the only way I can describe it. It's growing very well. Um, the lady who actually gave us these sweetgrass starters, she allowed us to go out to her land and she grows sweetgrass beds herself. Um, she has beds of sweetgrass, sorry. And she asked us, it was last week. She asked us last week if we could come out there and help her harvest because she is kind of an older lady. She said her back was hurting her so much, and we said, sure, we'll come help. So we went out there, me and Leah and Van. We all spent time with the sweetgrass. We prayed before we started harvesting. We were mindful around the all the other herbs around there. We had such an amazing time and it was such a connection with not only the earth but with each other. And during that time, we come back, we were given half of the harvest of which we picked. So we brought that back home, and I just got done talking to Van a few days ago, and she told me that ever since we went out there and visited her, her back stopped hurting. She said she really likes to give us props, and she told me, she said, it's because you girls are so healing in what you guys are doing, and that's why my back has probably stopped hurting. And I just thought that was really, really crazy because I know we didn't do nothing, that I know of, but um, like I said, it was just creating that connection that all of us need. Maybe her back just need that connection. Just kidding. Anyways, speaking more about our herbal pharmacy, our psychiatric nurse practitioner, Hope, she was able to bring back some untouched, unprocessed tobacco from Virginia. It's ceremonial tobacco because there's no chemicals pumped into it, no nothing. It's just dried leaves. That is she was privileged enough to fly back with it, and we are going to offer it at my family ceremony this coming week. So I'm very grateful for that. With the relationships that we have gained over the past year when it comes to holistic approaches and gardening, we are confident in our decision to not only grow our own herbs, but to be able to forage and gift them to our patients and the community as well. And I can't wait. On this slide, I have it titled Denver Indian Health and Services. So, our herbal pharmacy has been such an inspiration to urban Indian health clinics across the nation. This includes the Denver Indian Health and Family Services. Denver was so influenced and moved by our project that it motivated them to put together their own herbal pharmacy project also. They introduced the four sacred herbs, which is sage, cedar, tobacco, and sweetgrass, during their pilot launch. We were told of their community's excitement about the medicine bags, and within a month, they provided over 130 of them. After we've helped out with their project, Butte Native Wellness Center was then featured in various presentations for the National Council of Urban Indians. Over time, our curiosity grew as we have been busy for the past year. We've been so busy. A few months ago, I reached out to Denver to check on how their project is coming along. And the sweet lady Claire, she's a doctor. She told us that, or she's a medical practitioner. She told us the exciting news that she recently took on a position as a traditional medicine practitioner. Her background is an enrolled Ojibwe tribal member, and she is also an expert in traditional Chinese medicine. A lot of her work revolves around herbal medicine, which she was then granted permission to indigenize her pharmacy. This was such a inspirational project. I am so grateful our center could be part of it. On this slide, over the next few slides, I would like to go over herbalism, ethnobotany, and plants with just a brief description of each topic. So the first one we are going to go over is herbalism. This practice has been around for thousands and thousands of years, studying and practicing the medicine and therapeutic uses of plants, especially in alternative medicine. This is what herbalism entails. Most herbalists that prescribe herbal remedies have to have a medical practitioner background that includes a degree and clinical hours. Other than that, almost anyone who is interested in herbal medicine, they can look into it themselves. They just can't be prescribing it to other people. Hence is the reason why our herbal pharmacy is for me, I don't have that medical background, so I can't be prescribing different plants for different people. But that is why we've stuck to aromatherapy only. We do want to try and work on teas though. That would be so cool. So most are traditional Chinese medicine is a type of herbal practice that differs from the Western herbal medicine. Chinese medicine doesn't specifically go into the illnesses like Western herbalists do. They would rather treat the person as a whole, reflecting back onto their lifestyle, and then seeking that ultimate balance that they achieve for a successful life. Herbalists are people who use plants for healing. They want to figure out what's causing the illness and why. Then next they find an herb or a root to treat this illness. So their main focus is just surrounding the pain or the rash or whatever the illness may be. This is important to remember as I go over ethnobotany. But before I do, here are a list of treatments and that herbalists use, which is teas, capsules, oils, skin creams, ointments, and bath salts. Ethnobotany. The definition of ethnobotany is the scientific examination of the customary knowledge and practices of a community regarding the use of plants, more specifically, the indigenous knowledge. When it comes to Native people and utilizing these plants or gifts, what we'd like to call them, we would not only use it for medicinal purposes, such as curing an infection or a really bad cough. A lot of these tribes would use Mother Nature for their shelter, food, clothing, even the air we breathe in our lungs today. Um, that that is a type of ethnobotany. So without nature, we could not sustain life. And us as indigenous people, we knew that. So as an indigenous person that was raised in a culture that involves plants, trees, roots, and berries, this to me was just a part of my life. This is where the generational wealth in this specific knowledge comes from. I teach my son what I've been taught, and he's going to teach his children. This is going to create a cultural ripple effect that can only grow if we as people comprehend the value and importance of these plants. On this slide, I just want to give like a quick overview on what plants are and how they are described. So a plant is labeled as a living organism in the scientific world. The reason why they are considered living is because they thrive in an environment that contains soil and water. They then go through a process known as photosynthesis. This allows them to grow their stem, leaves, roots, and flowers to make up said plant by using the rays of the sun. Just like how you and I are living, breathing living beings, so are plants, trees, and flower. We're all we're all living beings on this earth. The plant kingdom can be broken down into classification that involves species, genus, family, order, class, and division. This helps scientists and anyone who is interested in plants to understand exactly what type of plant they are studying. The species of a plant is very important to identify as it can lead into varieties of plants, which are just types of plants found within a certain type of species. For example, during the first presentation I discussed sweetgrass. So sweetgrass is a species of the grass family. Then spirit germplasm sweetgrass is a variety in the sweetgrass species. Altogether, learning about plants and understanding how important they are can help our ecosystem and sustainability when it comes to natural resources. Before we begin to discuss the two main topics of today's presentation, I would like to first point out that I do not claim nor do I have the rights of any type of medicine man or woman title. Also, I want to address that although these plants are considered ceremonial, I will not be going into any details about any type of ceremony practices. That's just how I was raised. There are crucial details when it comes to ceremonies that I have no rights to be discussing. What I am going to share with you all is my own knowledge from my upbringing, information I have gathered from elders, tribal members from different tribes, and also my own exploration and study of each plant. Just as I mentioned earlier, that because Butte Native Wellness Center is an urban Indian organization, we like to be inclusive with all tribes throughout the nation. I find it fascinating learning about other tribes and their customs because it gives me a deeper understanding on how important our connection is with Mother Earth, and I hope you enjoy it as well. The first plant that we are going to be discussing is yarrow. Yarrow is a very well-known plant across the world for its many healing properties. It is not only native here in North America, but it is also native in Europe, Asia, and Africa. There are around 110 to 114 species from the genus Achille, which is the scientific name for yarrow. In North America, there are around 30 species of yarrow, and then here in Montana, there's two different species of yarrow. One is referred to as Western yarrow, and the other is called common yarrow. According to the USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, both were used by native tribes here in North America. Common yarrow is considered to be an invasive species which is native to Europe, but it has naturalized itself here in North America, which means it allowed itself to grow and adapt here, being perennial. It comes back. So that is how it naturalizes itself. The Western yarrow, that's native here in North America. But upon doing my research, both plants are very similar, almost identical. To the USDA, the leaves and the chromosomes are what differentiate these two plants. On the University of Montana's website, they have a native ethnobotany garden page that shows you just a few of many different plants different tribes here in Montana used. On the list for the Blackfeet tribe, yarrow is considered to be one of the main plants they used. On this list, it is listed as yarrow followed by its scientific name, which is Achille millefolium. This is the species that I will be discussing throughout our presentation because this specific yarrow is listed under multiple tribes, not just Blackfeet, but almost every other tribe in Montana. Just like I've done in previous presentations, I've added this slide to show the classifications of the plant. My resource for this is the United States Department of Agriculture. On this slide, I like to add the triangle diagram to properly see the order in which plant classifications lie in. This plant was classified by the USDA. As you can see, it is part of the flowering division because of the little white flowers on top. And yarrow is also a part of the sunflower family. The characteristics are very important when studying plants. They can differentiate them from different varieties of a species. So this characteristics of yarrow around Montana has those white flowering bunches at the top with their long skinny stems. Although they do range from white, red, yellow, pink, orange, and even gold, yarrow is considered yarrow is considered to be perennial, which means it comes back every year. The roots of these plants, they they are called horizontal rhizomes. What that means is right underneath the soil where the root begins, they start to grow horizontally. That is because they are followed by the shoot and root system. This is a type of growth system yarrow can be. They use this system is because they can spread easily like that. The leaves on these plants are described as featherly cut. If you look in this picture, see right where my arrow is kind of pointing? That's, you don't really see leaves like that on plants, and that's why they described it as featherly cut. Most people agree that the yarrow leaves do give off a spicy scent, such as like spices up in your kitchen cabinet, such as like rosemary or oregano, kind of gives off that kind of scent. The history of yarrow. With yarrow being native to Europe and Asia, there are multiple cultures that utilized and knew about the healing properties of this plant. Yarrow can be dated back to Trojan war times and was referred to as herba militaris because it helped those suffering from traumatic wounds during the war. It would eventually stop bleeding. In Greek mythology, it was said that the hero Achilles was treating his wounded soldiers with yarrow, hence the name Achilles in Yarrow's scientific slash Latin name. In Victorian times, yarrow is signified as both war and healing. And in Asia, there is a saying that goes, wherever yarrow grows, one does not need to fear wild beasts or poisonous plants. This that saying promotes a healthy garden. This plant is a very widely known medicinal plant all over the world. In the next slide, I will go over how the indigenous people viewed yarrow. As I was researching how different tribes use what, honestly, due to our people's way of life and not having a written history, then being forced into assimilation via boarding schools, our history as Indigenous people can be a bit challenging trying to find out what we use what plants for. But luckily, I have been able to find enough information to understand why the native people consider certain plants as traditional medicine. The indigenous people of this land have been using plants for their resources since the beginning of time. In our stories that have been passed down, different plants have been featured as a healer or a protector and showcases in ceremonial importance. Yarrow is labeled as a traditional plant by many tribes across the nation. On the website Organic Seed Alliance, there is an article called Yarrow, a Plant Profile and Seed Historian report by Katya Wesley. In this article, she mentions a Lakota elder by the name of Linda Black Elk. This is a direct quote from the elder about the yarrow plant. She begins to kind of describe what they used it for. Okay. Quote, poultice is of dried leaves and flowers used to heal spider and other insect bites. Wad of moistened leaves put in outer ear to cure an earache. Poultice made from the whole plant applied to wounds to stop bleeding. Leaves chewed for toothache. Leaves rubbed on irritated skin to relieve itching. An infusion made from leaves used to treat stomach pains and coughing and a sore throat. An infusion is also used to stimulate sweating and urination, a mild laxative to cleanse slash detoxify the blood, to cure female organ problems, and to heal internal bleeding. There are so many different applications for this plant. Quote, Linda Black Elk. I really like how she just named off how yarrow was used, coming from a Lakota elder. That is very vital information that I will hold on to forever. The act of using yarrow in teas to treat colds and fevers were used by the Blackfeet, Cherokee, Cheyenne, Iroquois, the Ojibways, and Nez Perce tribe. Some even use the tea to treat digestive issues and headaches. It is important to remember that the uses of this plant vary of the location this plant is growing and which the tribe is using it. Ceremonial and medicinal practices also differentiate when it comes to plants and tribes. How is common yarrow used today? In today's world of herbalism, most herbalists utilize these plants that have a significant amount of historical usage. Yarrow is the perfect example of this plant. Although there isn't much significant, oh, Even though there isn't much scientific evidence to support these uses, it is still being used today. It is being used in some people commonly use yarrow for irritable bowel syndrome or eczema. There is a website that I've been falling back onto, uh, especially for today's usage portion of this presentation. What it is a website designed to help those on health journeys that want to utilize gifts that Mother Earth provides for us. In this article, they talk about different uses for yarrow that includes inflammation, mental health and brain health, soothes digestive systems, and healing. How yarrow can help with depression and anxiety is because yarrow contains flavonoids and alkaloids. These are shown to reduce symptoms of depression because it works in your brain. That is why yesterday during our supposition stories, our registered dietitian decided to use yarrow in our dish because of the flavonoids and the alkaloids that that promote brain health. It suggests it suggests that most consumption is done by drinking tea. This plant is considered to be edible also, hence us using it in our suppers and stories last night. Our center's registered dietitian has actually started to grow some yarrow in our front lobby. That is the one that she used in the dish. Along with the yarrow, she is also growing mint, oregano, basil, thyme, and this is to provide for the clinic and the community that we serve. I am so very grateful to be able to work with others who have a green thumb and appreciate plants as much as the indigenous culture does. We are going into our second topic, which is the red Indian paintbrush. Other names it is known by is common red paintbrush, giant red Indian paintbrush, meadow paintbrush, and scarlet paintbrush. There are around 200 species of red Indian paintbrush. Excuse me. Um, this beautiful flower is native to North America, and it can grow all the way up from Alaska all the way down to Arizona. And in the Pacific Northwest, that is where it can also grow. In Montana, there are around 21 different species of red Indian paintbrush. Most common species of Indian paintbrush come in either the red salmon color. The less common Indian paintbrushes are white and yellow. Again, like every plant that I feature in these presentations, I do add the classification slide that just goes over the species, genus, family, order, class, division, and kingdom. With how many different species of red Indian paintbrush there are, it was difficult to pinpoint just one specific type. What I have listed on the screen is categorized as the most common species. This is the type of species of the red Indian paintbrush that you will see growing in Glacier National Park and up in the Rocky Mountains. These wildflowers are very noticeable for its bright red flower top. Again, I also add the characteristic slides because it does help with um, categorizing what type of plant you are looking at. This wildflower has some of the prettiest flower structures I have ever seen in the wild. It has these beautiful reddish orangish parts that are technically not considered the flower, but the they are instead called the brax leaves. This plant is considered to be perennial because it comes back every year. It does grow around 8 to 30 inches tall and has unbranched stems. This just means that the plant itself grows in a single stem with no branches, hence the unbranched stem. The roots are described as partial root parasites. What that means is that this flower's roots will reach out, latch on to other healthy roots, and they'll take away all those nutrients. This is the type of survival mechanism. This plant has been this plant has been described as the vampire in the plant world because it just literally sucks the life out of whatever is nearby. So the understanding of characteristics is very important because this is how you differentiate from different types of species and of a specific plant. Mhm. I added this slide to talk about the significance of this plant through a native lens. This specific flower has actually been featured in a child's book from, I'm pretty sure some of you have seen this. It's called The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush by Tommy DePola, who is a very famous author and illustrator for multiple children's books. The reason why I bring this up is because as a young native girl living on the reservation, I probably read all of his books that were focused around the indigenous people and our stories. This particular book stood out to me because on my reservation, this wildflower is known to grow up in the mountains located in Glacier National Park. But while I was doing my research, I found a story from Siksika or Blackfoot, which is my part of my Blackfoot Confederacy located in Canada. There is three of us. So there's the Blackfeet here in Montana, there's Siksika up in Canada, and then there's Kainai, which is up in Canada also. Although we are separated um, by the border, we are still one people. We are a very large tribe. The story goes that there was once a Blackfoot woman who was tending to this wounded prisoner. She ended up falling in love with this man, and she was getting worried for him because she knew the only reason why her people were healing him was to only capture him later. So that's why she decided to make an escape plan for the prisoner. But she included herself into this plan. She was going to run away with him. And she did. She ran away with him back to his camp where his tribe was from, but she was getting homesick for her people. She sat up on top of this ridge and she could see her old camp from there. Nearby in the bushes, she overheard two young warriors talking about her and wondering what had happened if they had found her. She was afraid because she knew she was considered a traitor. She couldn't go home. Deep in her sadness and longing for home, she took a piece of the bark and she drew a picture of her people's camp with her own blood. After she was done expressing her feelings and going through that hurt and drawing that picture in the dirt, she then threw that bloody stick and walked back to her lover's teepee. Where that stick had landed, a plant grew. This plant had a brush-like tip, red as if it was dyed from the girl's blood. Soon, this became known as the Red Indian Paintbrush. This story was retold by Honora Brown, who grew up in Canada and had the privilege of hearing stories like these from First Nation elders. There are multiple tribes that have utilized this plant. The Pacific Northwest tribes made a decoction of this plant. A decoction is sort of like a tea, but instead of just adding boiling water to the contents, this plant requires that constant heat while it's boiling to draw out the beneficial compounds. When this decoction is finished, it is then used to treat backaches, bleeding lungs, and sore eyes. The decoction of seeds have been known to use as a type of cough syrup. Red Indian paintbrush flower parts are edible, and the nectar was also known as a type of candy for different tribes. The leaves and the roots, though, those are very toxic if you eat them. That is just because of the nature of them being a root parasite. This causes them to absorb different things in the soil, which could be toxic for humans to ingest. The Ojibwe would not only use the medicinal properties of this plant, but by treating rheumatism arthritis, but they would also use red Indian paintbrush as a type of hair wash that would leave their hair looking silky smooth and volumized. The Crow tribe would use this crushed plant on open wounds to speed up the healing process. In this video I watched on YouTube, I watched a Crow historian named Grant Bulltail. He explains that when they were little kids, they would go out and pick flowers and they would eat the nectars because it's sweet. It was like a little treat for them. He said the crow would lay a single flower, stem, and all on the whole, oh wait, the whole plant itself on top of a fresh cut meat because it would rid any insects such as flies or anything from landing on to the meat and causing it to go rancid. Then he said they would use the red part of the plant to paint with, paint on their teepees or paint on different canvases or parfleches. They used this. Oh, he finished his interview by stating that this plant isn't as prevalent as it used to be due to the toxic chemicals and erratic changes in our ecosystem. This plant isn't doing very well on Mother Earth, as he describes. I really enjoyed learning about how other tribes use plants that are growing in my backyard as I was growing up. Being an Indigenous woman, I have the inevitable connection with Mother Earth, and I very much really appreciate that. In today's day and age, holistic approaches are becoming more and more accessible for people. The science and technology we have used helps us today. I've been told it's called technological feedback. There are different studies that have been done that shows that this plant does contain vitamin C and other nutrients. I mean, I'm not surprised from how much it steals from other plants, but it has been known to be used in salads because of the nutrients. I've, I myself, I've have known people to use these plants as decorations. I know of one lady back home on my reservation. She actually used them at her wedding for, wedding flowers, which is very, very cool, very special. So it has been used as decorations also. In conclusion, Yarrow and Red Indian Paintbrush play an important role in tribes in almost every region, wherever this plant grows. The native perspective on plants should be taken into consideration when handling traditional plants, herbs, or trees. Native people believe these plants have spirits and are gift from Creator. The reason why I want to add this slide is because we can all learn something from plants, whether that being patient, being mindful, learning how to care. You do not have to be native or from a certain tribe in order to give the respect that these plants deserve. Thank you. So I do go over the caring context that has ended the plant segment of my presentation. Over the next few slides, I am just going to go over our Caring Contacts program and our events that we hold here at our center. With our Caring Contacts program, you can call or email me. My information is down here. Um, what we do is we only require your name and number, and no other information is needed, and you can opt out anytime. What this does, it is proven to improve mental health in a cultural aspect, which is very important, especially for us urban Indians that don't get that cultural connection as much as we need. Um, anything to create that cultural connection is very important and vital for us natives. So if you would like to join, please email me or call and I will get you signed up. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we do hold weekly and monthly events. Here is a list of date and times. I'm just going to do a quick summary on each event in no particular order. So first, I can just go down this list. I will just do that. So the men and women's Wellbriety group, the men's is on Monday from 2 to 4 every Monday, and women's is every Tuesday from 2 to 4. The Wellbriety group is the native centered aspect of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous that I use myself. I am a certified facilitator for this program, and I am very grateful for it. Our next program is the Teen Summer Program. This is a new addition to our center. We have made a date, which is every Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. Teens can come in here and they can envelop themselves into the cultural connection that we do provide here. It just, like I said, cultural connection is very important for us urban Indians because we can't really, we're not as, we can't really get that access anymore. So that's why I do what I do with my job. I create that cultural connection in an urban environment. Our beading workshops, which are every Thursday and Friday, the third Fridays are from 10 to 12, but every Thursday and Friday, they are from 10 to 12, and then Fridays 1 to 3. What we do during the beading workshop is we sit around and we sip some tea, spill some tea if you have some. It just becomes that connectedness. Everything we do, we are always connected. That is part of like our medicine wheel teachings. Everything is that interconnectedness, and that is what we create here is that connection. Our drumming circle is hosted by Kim Boyle, who is a member of the Little Shell tribe. It's like a prayer circle. We sit around and we do put in intentions every second Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. The next one is Our Suppers and Stories. That is run by myself and the registered dietitian, Amy. Each month we feature a different tribe. For this month, we actually just got done. It was last night. We just got done doing the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribe. What we do is the registered dietitian, she will find she will find the tribe's traditional foods and served as the My Native Plate has intended, which is a food guide to portion control and healthy habits that is native centered. And what she would do is like even with the traditional foods like such as what's one? Such as blue camas, that is not very accessible for us. So what she does is she researches what what correlates with that root vegetable. What can we substitute with that root vegetable? So we talk about that. We talk about different things that we do. My what my part in this is I find different stories from their tribe that correlate with the meal. Like last night, we had we talked about bitterroot, and told the story from the Salish tribe about how their story of the origin of bitterroot and how it come from a mother's tears. Her bitter tears is what helped grow the plant. It's a very, very cool story. And then finally, our traditional herbs and medicine presentation. I really love doing these. It helps me. It feels like I'm getting even more connected to my culture. I'm very thankful for it, and I really hope you guys all enjoy it also. If you have any questions or you want to discuss something with me, please do not hesitate to call or email me. Um, I would love some feedback on these. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my presentation. For July's presentation, we are going to go over wild roses and stinging nettle. Thank you so much.